Hey now, hey now, hey now. This is the one you've been waiting for. Welcome to another episode of the Uneeda Horror Podcast. As always, I've got my co-host Nick with me in his lawn chair, whatever Michael Myers shirt that is. I don't know what he's wearing again.
It is a take on a Monet painting. I don't know the painting, but yeah, my wife saw it and she was like, "Well, you got to get that." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." So, and FYE was doing a buy one get one half off, and I had already bought one. Yeah, what is that? Yeah, I was telling you about the painting. You know, the old painting that
The
like
Screamer.
Starry Night.
Starry Night. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The Screamer. Yeah, is that the same thing?
Maybe not.
Okay.
This is probably
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so, like, the Screamer one, they have a Michael take on that, and I already had gotten
ah,
that one, and she was like, "Well, if it's half off, just buy the other one." I was like, "Alright." So, yeah, that's what I'm wearing.
I feel like everybody's representing tonight. Like I've got my Return of the Living Dead 2 a hoodie on with a wife beater. Well, one of those like loose fitting ones, just something cozy for this. And Piz, is that the Part 5 VHS?
yes, it is.
Man,
Yes,
you
it is.
already know.
Nice.
You already know. We were all on theme. Everybody is representing themselves today, and I dig that.
Yeah,
Piz,
but,
man, what? Go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, I feel self-conscious, I'm wearing a hat. People keep calling me out for wearing hats all the time. I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't wear hats anymore.
Hey, man, do what you want to do, man.
Just do you, man. Just do you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get peer pressured, so.
Piz, what happened? You went back to satellite internet a couple weeks ago. What was going on?
Oh Jesus. No, I don't know. I just there for a couple of days. It was very spotty. So, but it's bounced back. So
Oh, good to hear, man. Well, I know everybody was they were upset, but you know what? We're doing it now. So look at the bright side. If it would have happened already, it would be in the past. But now you're excited because we're doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre Round 2. The buzz is back. And I mean, look, let's just go ahead and get into it. You know, let's just have a good time, get into this. Piss. I mean, what was going on around? We're gonna start with 2003's remake. I mean, what the hell was going on around this time? What was the world of horror like around this time for you? Like, what do you remember specifically?
oh man, it was it was the end of the sort of Scream style slasher movies. We had the Scream style slasher movies that were going out in the early 2000s. Then there was that period where we were having a lot of those found footage movies trying to be like the Blair Witch Project. But that the heyday of those kind of came and went pretty quick, it seems like. So early 2000s, this was it was the quiet before the remake storm. Yeah. And we talk about how bad horror was in the early 90s before Scream. The genre was kind of dead. The genre was alive for the remakes, but the fans were dead inside. The remakes made the fans dead inside. So that to me is a darker period in horror history than the early 90s by far.
And we talked about this on a previous one we did together, Crystal Lake Memories Part 2, I believe, where we spoke about this is the same year that Freddy versus Jason came out, and we all felt like Freddy versus Jason came out 5 years too late, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting take on the genre at the time because I was old enough to remember those times, but I wasn't really like a horror fan then. Yeah, I mean, did it feel that way though? Did it feel like some of these were did it almost feel like you knew remakes were coming, like some of these franchises had basically run their course?
It was no. After Freddy versus Jason, I remember thinking, "Holy crap, we're going to have a resurgence in Friday the 13th movies, in Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and we'll have more Freddy versus Jason movies." That didn't happen. Remakes came in and just screwed all that up.
When do you remember hearing about 2003's? Was it an internet buzz or?
I don't remember exactly where I first heard about it. I'm sure it was on some website. But I remember just being insulted. I felt just it just felt like a complete blasphemy that they were remaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But this was after Dawn of the Dead, and Dawn of the Dead had been a hit, and Dawn of the Dead was better than most people I think expected. And so I mean, I think there was maybe a little bit of hope that this one would be okay too, but still, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, that's, for me, that's like hollowed ground. I couldn't. It was blasphemy.
Because this was your favorite horror movie, even at that point, right? 2003 was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so let's go into the theater. Do you remember the day you were like, "Today's the day"? This was my life before. This is my life where there was one Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and tomorrow there's going to be two. What was that moment like for you?
I remember, I remember seeing the trailer for the first time and being like, okay, this actually looks pretty good. So that kind of got me a little curious about it. So I'm pretty sure I went opening night. If it wasn't opening night, it was Saturday night of the opening weekend. And the theater was packed. This was like 7 p.m., 9 p.m., something like that. Totally packed. I had to sit like on the side, like next to somebody. Like that was like the only seat I could find. And very early on in the movie, I was like, it slapped me across the face, like, holy crap, this is pretty good. Like it was the scene where the hitchhiker pulls the gun out of between her legs and commits suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, oh my God. And the camera tracking through the van and out the back of her head, and out the van. That was like the slap in the face moment where I was like, okay, this might be something. And I remember really liking that remake. I remember being just floored by it, to be honest. Yeah. I was really impressed.
Very cool. Let's hold off either right there. Nick, I don't know. I think you're probably like me. You saw this well after it came out, or at least not in the theater. We didn't see it in the theater.
No, I didn't see it in the theater, but because I was 10 when it came out, but I watched it the following year because it came out on DVD. And my buddy Tommy and Chris, Piz's doppelganger, Tommy, we've talked about him before. He was a little bit older than us. Chris was a younger brother that was my age. So Tommy had already started collecting horror movies. And his mom got him this remake when it came out on DVD, and we watched it. Like it was probably not even a year after the movie came out. And I mean, to tell you, we watched it and watched it and watched it. And I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, what year did Alien versus Predator come out? What year was that? Was that 04 or 05?
Had to have been right pre-Katrina. 04.
Yes, 04.
I remember my uncle talking about it right before Katrina, or maybe a year before Katrina.
That's what always sticks in my mind when it comes to this movie, believe it or not, is because we were on our way to the theater to see AVP, watching it on the minivan screen in the back. We were watching this remake. And I mean, because we watched it all the time. And like a lot of people my age, I saw this one first. I did not see the original first. And I freaking loved this movie. I mean, I loved this movie. This movie scared the crap out of me. I watched the original afterward, obviously not long afterward, and Chris actually became a big TCM fan, and he collects the franchise. This movie is what started that for him, and so I got around to seeing the rest of them. But man, I remember this movie just being scary. I thought that Arlie Ermy was fantastic. Arlie Ermy is fantastic in the movie. I really liked the cast. I love Andrew Braniarski as Leatherface. I thought that he just brought something to the role that was menacing, and the mask isn't super realistic in the sense of like decay or rotting flesh. I guess like it's more a more stylistic approach. But yeah, loved this movie. Wore that DVD out, man. Well, watched it so much. So I caught it. I would right after the home video release. I, wasn't able to sneak into a theater to see it at 10, but I saw it at home a few months later.
Yeah, I didn't see it till after the beginning, the following entry. So let me lead us off into the next portion. Piz, you're a veteran of the show at this point, so you know how this rolls. Only one can get a 10 for this. And I kind of like what Nick did with our Child's Play. So when we're done, I want you to be thinking about which one of these you would exile completely. Let me just start this because I really don't have too much to say. I'm gonna get some crap for this. I like the 2003 remake, but I really don't see what the big deal is about it. I think it's pretty good. I don't like it as much as the beginning. I'll give it a 6. I think that's pretty fair for me. I like it. I don't swear by it though. So I'm gonna get a 6.
Now we're getting controversial already.
I don't think Piz is gonna go very high either. I think he's probably thought it's those tires are a little worn on it too. I could be wrong, but what do you think, Piz?
It's not aged well, I don't think. And I've seen it several times because I remember buying it on DVD when it first came out and watching it a few times. I don't know. Just that sweaty, skin tight shirt on Jessica Biel.
Yeah, that's from
is a 10 alone for me. Just that alone is a 10.
You better keep that in mind when we get to 3D. I'm just saying, you better keep that in mind when we get to 3D.
But I would give the 2003 remake. I would give it a 7. I've not watched it lately. It's probably been a couple of years. Well, I'd say more like a few years since I last saw it. But I saw it so much that like I remember it pretty well. But it's one of those movies that every subsequent time I saw it, it just kind of lost something for me.
That's
so
me.
I don't think it ages very well.
Well, I got to stick true to myself. If I'm being honest, I just did a re-ranking of the franchise after 2022 came out, and I always go back and forth with the remake and the original. Being 1 and 2. 1 week it's number 1, the next week it's number 2. I have to go 10. This will have to be my 10. And it's funny because the back half of this franchise, I actually find a lot of enjoyment in a lot of these movies. So it's not going to be easy, but yeah, I'm going to give it my 10 because I also haven't seen it in a few years. And I'm sure you guys are right. It probably doesn't age as well. I think the next one we're going to talk about ages probably better. But I really do enjoy it a lot. I mean, it was part of its nostalgia. It was very important to me. It was probably my introduction into the genre at such a young age. That's the first one I really remember. And I just remember watching it like crazy. This and like Halloween 5 are like and The Exorcist are some of my first horror memories. So they always just have that place for me. So I'll go ahead and get the suspense out of the way. This will be my 10.
Funny story. I was at my grandpa turns 80 tomorrow, and he's still kicking like a mule, man. God bless him. But we were celebrating his birthday today, and The Exorcist got brought up, and I was like, I'm an Exorcist 3 guy. I think that's better than the first one. And my entire family is losing their mind. What? The Exorcist is the scariest movie ever. I'm like, well, what did you think about Exorcist 3? Well, I've never seen Exorcist 3. All of them. I'm like, are you kidding me? You've got to see Exorcist 3. And I was telling them, okay, Mom, you stream it on this platform because you have that. Mimi, my grandma, you stream it on this platform because you got that. It's the real deal. I swear to God. And they're like,
they probably got burnt by the heretic, and
yes,
like, no more sequels. No more.
I was just about to say that. That's how I was. I didn't see Exorcist 3 till I was an adult because I saw the heretic as a teenager and said that sucks. So, and I saw Dominion as a teenager and I was like that sucks. Yeah, I was really burnt. But yeah, you're right, Christian. There's an argument to be made there for Exorcist 3. There is.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. And honestly, Nick, like I would say the majority of people would agree with you that this is going to be the 10 for the people watching that giving their own scores. I would say 90% are going to give this one a 10
of this era. Yes. Yeah.
It's on the Mount Rushmore, I think, of horror remakes. I don't think maybe if not Mount Rushmore in the sense of there's only 4, I would just say it's definitely a top 10 horror remake for me. I would say.
Yeah.
Well, and when you think back on that era, Dawn of the Dead and Chainsaw kicked it off. Those are 2 pretty good remakes. And then most of everything that came after is just horrendous. And I hate when people defend remakes or this era of remakes by going, well, John Carpenter's Halloween was a remake. David Cronenberg's The Fly was a remake. Yeah. John Carpenter and David Cronenberg. We're not talking about some music video director who's, high on blow the whole time. And these movies are movies by committee. All the creative, everything creative about these movies are being made. It's a decision being made at a board table. It's all about the cash in. Doesn't matter. It's the title, the main character, the villain, and we don't care about anything else. They'll come. And so I hate that when they're like, well, John Carpenter's The Thing was a remake. Yeah, well, they remade John Carpenter's The Fog. You want to compare those two? The difference is John Carpenter directed The Thing remake. David Cronenberg directed the freaking Fly remake. You know what I mean? It's not even
apples and oranges. Yeah,
it's not even the same ballpark.
Those two kicked off this remake craze, and they were both good. Yeah, but I would agree with you. The mid 2000s, I think, was the weakest of the remake craze. If I'm being totally honest with you, Rob Zombie's Halloween is my second to least favorite Halloween movie.
Once they got into like The Stepfather and Prom Night, and The Fog, and you know what I mean?
It was computer generated almost. It was
mounds.
I mean,
of shit.
Remember I think didn't they remake Mirrors or something like
it
that?
Sucked. Yeah, it sucked.
And they did Mirrors too, for God's sake.
There were so many. Yeah.
And there's some hidden gems in this era though, guys. Original content. Check out a movie called Vacancy.
It's great.
From 2007. It's a really fun
The Strangers.
Gem.
Oh wait, The Strangers
as well.
Another one.
Yeah. There's we got to do another episode on that too. Hidden gems from the 2000s.
There were a few that slid in there, but yeah, those. Oh man, that to me is really the darkest era of horror that I've survived through is the remake era. That was just so soul crushing, seeing all these great movies get these unbelievably awful remakes. Just God.
I'm sure people are feeling your pain, Piz.
The remake of The Fog is in my top 3 most hated horror movies ever. I think that movie is absolutely awful.
John Carpenter liked it because he got
he got a paycheck. Yeah,
he got paid.
That's all I would care about.
I feel bad that was the last movie that Deborah Hill was any way creatively involved in. She was technically an executive producer, and she did approve some things, so she was kind of involved. I feel bad that's her last credit because that movie
she didn't
sucked.
give a. She was battling cancer.
She was.
God bless her,
but I upon doing research on it, I found out they actually did run things by her and get her opinion on things because Carpenter didn't want anything to do with it. He wanted to check, but he wasn't going to answer your questions. No.
When does he ever answer your questions?
Carpenter would go. Only thing you got to run by me is the check.
Exactly.
Yep. So.
Oh my God. All right, Piz, man, what's going on? A few years later, this Beginning thing comes out. What do you think of that? They're doing a prequel? I'm sure you're like, what the hell's going on here? But is your trust built up a little bit at this point?
I mean, a little bit, yeah, because I'd liked the remake. I remember going and seeing The Beginning Friday afternoon matinee. As soon as I got out of work, I went straight to the theater to watch The Beginning, and I am not a fan of that movie at all. I rewatched it prior to doing this, and there's just I can't derive any enjoyment out of that movie. Never could.
I guess that's it, right?
That's
it's like they took Texas Chainsaw Massacre into they've thrown in some torture porn. Actually, it's sort of more torture porn than it is it feels more almost like a torture porn movie than like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. But yeah, it's unrelentingly grim and just nasty. And I don't know I get no joy out of it. Never have.
This was the first one I saw in theaters. I didn't see 2003. This was not long after Katrina, probably a year later, and we were finally settling in where I live now, and we went to see this in theaters. I remember it scaring the crap out of me, man. I think this was my first, it had to have been my first Texas Chainsaw ever I saw in theaters. So I hear you, Piz. I really like this one. I always like the brother angle in the beginning. I have my brother who's a little bit older than me, and I really like those characters. Those were cool. Good looking women in the beginning. I don't know what it is. I like the color of this one, and I like the bikers. This one's just more me than 2003. It's just more me.
Well, you know, we mentioned Jessica Biel, and you know we're going to mention Daddario in 3D, but Dora Baird, ay caramba,
She's got the goods, man.
oh mamma mia, yeah. Oh.
If I was gonna play any character in that movie, it was definitely gonna be the younger brother.
Oh yeah, goodness gracious, yeah.
You know,
Dora
Piz,
Baird.
I just like this one. I hear you, but dude, I really like this. This one's nasty. It is grim. I don't know. Maybe it's also nostalgia, but then again, I don't think so, because if I'm taking my pick, I'm gonna watch the beginning over the 03 every day of the week, twice on Sunday. I just am. I like this one, man. That's I like this one. I love it when Bubba cuts off the what is it, the great uncle, whoever that weird dude is, the wheelchair boy, cuts off
Monty.
Gets off his
Monty.
legs.
dude. Oh, dude, that was brutal. That was just gross. I this one's me. This one's just me, man. So I loved that. Great theater experience. I remember my mom took me, and I had my buddy Heath, and my brother was with me, and I don't know. I just remember I remember having to pee the entire time, but I didn't want to leave because I had one of those big giant ices. I remember all that. And then we went to a haunted house that night. That was a good day. That was a really good day.
That sounds like a good time, yeah.
It was a good day. But this one's money for me. So I'll leave it off right there.
Yeah. So this was the first one I saw in theaters too, after having, beat that DVD to hell and back of the remake. We got Tommy and Chris's dad to take us to see this one in theaters because we were very excited for it. I was 13 at the time too, so it was a little more appropriate for me, I guess. Still not technically, but I had a fun time with it too. I remembered when I heard that it was a prequel, I was kind of like, why? I don't understand why you wouldn't just continue on from the pretty widely well received remake, but I liked it a lot. I still do like it a lot. Again, Andrew Briniarski as Leatherface is fantastic. There are issues with it. I don't like this cast of characters as much as the remake. I don't think, although I do like Eric Balfour. Or not Eric. He's in the what's the dude's name? Is it Matt Bomer?
Just be like me, Nick.
Yeah.
Say I like the older brother. I like the younger brother.
But it's Matt Bomer. Yeah, I like Matt Bomer in this movie. I do. I like the whole Vietnam draft dodging, plot point. I think that was kind of topical because it was to play on the Iraq war at the time. So I thought that was cool. It's gory. It's nasty. I think that's why it's more up Christian's alley, honestly. You start off with that nasty birth scene at the slaughterhouse and you know what you're in for. It's not going to be pretty. And I love the ending. I love endings like this where everyone dies. I mean, it's just, you call me cynical. I don't know. When she's driving away in the car, I'm like, dude, why? Like, this is bullshit. And then guts her. I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. I like it. It's pretty quick too, man. This movie's only like 80 minutes before credits. It is not a long movie. It's it gets to the point. But some of the plot contrivances, like, well, this is how Arlie Ermy lost his teeth. So let's show that really quick. And there's some of the things like that. They're like, that's a little on the nose, man. Like, I didn't need to see it. But Monty getting his legs cut off school. Yeah, I like this one a lot too. I do.
I think that this one doesn't match the complete heat density of the first one, but of a lot of them, I think this one gets semi close to that nasty heat feeling. That
the
whole
color
movie,
palette, the color palette's great.
Brown and you mentioned something earlier, Piz. This movie probably did have some Saw influence. We were too deep by Saw by that point, and I think that's probably why it did. The Arlie Ermy's got the two boys hanging, beating the piss out of that younger brother. Come on, soldier! Whoop-pow! Get up! Get another one! Whoop-pow!
I love that though. He's like, I'm a man of my word. You're free to go. After he beats the shit out of him, I'm like,
didn't one of them step in a bear trap or something?
That was it. That was him. Yeah.
The younger brother. Yeah.
Oh, Piz, I think you'll come around. Piz, give it another 10 years. Maybe you'll like it more.
They cut that chick's tongue out. The girl you guys cut her
tongue
tongue out, man. I'm like, oh, Nasty.
See that's unforgivable. Just that alone.
All right, here's the deal. If I'm being dead honest, in my opinion, I really wouldn't give any film from this point out a 10. I really wouldn't. To me, none of these are a 10. I'm sure I gave a 10 to everything before, but to just do it for that sake, no, I don't want to give this one a 10. I'm going to give this one an 8. I'm going to give this one an 8.
You son of a bitch. If you're going to give 3D a 10.
Hey, this is my show. I can do whatever the hell I want.
I
No,
know.
I really don't know yet. I just don't know that I'm going to give anything a 10. I really don't. I mean, Piz, am I wrong? Is any of these movies a 10 to you?
I mean, I don't think so.
You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
I can understand the 203 remake or whatever, because like I said, Nick, you're going to be in the majority. Most people think that movie's a 10. I personally just don't see what the big deal is about it. I think it's pretty good. I think this one's better, but I still don't think that the beginning is a 10 either. I don't know.
I know, I feel where you're coming from, because giving 03 a 10 was more out of, well, I have to give one a 10, and I feel like, in my opinion, it's the strongest of this bunch, but that ain't it's not a John Carpenter's Halloween 10. It's not a 10 like that, it's just a 10 like, okay, yeah, it's probably the best of the bunch.
I tell you what, no. Let me do this again. I'm just not going to think about what's going to be a 10 or not. I'm just going to go movie to movie. I'm going to go with a 7. I do think it's a little better than 03. I'm going to give the beginning a 7. That's what I'm going to stick with. Whoever wants to go next.
Sorry, I muted myself. I'll go 8. I think that it's pretty freaking good. I'll go 8.
I'll give it
4.
I'll give it a 5.
5.
And that's mostly for Diorna.
Okay.
So 2.5 for each. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah. I do like R. I do like Arlie Ermy. So I mean, a little bit to Arlie Ermy. I mean, how can you not like Arlie Ermy's character?
Arlie Ermy,
in these two movies.
Yeah, but you can't walk away from this movie not being pissed that Matt Bomer knocked on the hotel room door before, we got, yeah.
You would think of that unrated cut that we would have got to see some more, what can you do?
Yeah, when I first saw this movie, I was like, okay, all right, we're getting right into it. And then he's like, come on, get your ass out here. I'm like, oh, you suck, man.
Piz, so we're going to move on. I'm trying to think. You probably reviewed Texas Chainsaw 3D when it came out on your channel, right? Mm-hmm. God, I'm sure I saw it back when it came out, but I'm probably glad I didn't watch it, because I really don't remember hearing you say too much about this film in the past. But take me back to this time. You probably went to the theater and you remember seeing that trailer saying "Start the New Year with a Familiar Face" and seeing Texas Chainsaw 3. Well, what is going through your mind? You probably saying to yourself, what the hell is this? What is a requel? You didn't know what a requel was at that point, did you?
Yeah, no. I don't remember being really excited for 3D. I mean, it's like, okay, I got to go see it. I think it was one of those, Friday afternoon matinees right out of work. Because the trailer didn't do much for me. Just nothing about it did very much for me. And it was 3D. And this is a whole other, I mean, the 3D era was also stuffed into the remake era. So, I mean, it was just like one down. It was like, how can it get any worse? Well, we're going to make everything 3D now. Oh, Jesus Christ. So anyway, the thing that excited me about it was the opening of the film, which was supposed to feature characters from the first movie. I mean, actors from the first movie. Like, Gunnar Hansen was there. John Dugan was there. Bill Moseley was there, of course, from part 2, playing the cook from part 1. Yeah. And I like that. My favorite parts of 3D is like the first 10, 15 minutes and the final 15 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. Because really, Leatherface is the hero of the movie. And I'm always somebody, I like the idea of Leatherface just being, he's a reactionary villain, even if you want to call him a villain. He doesn't go out of his way to bother anybody, but if you bother him or you trespass or you mess with a member of the family, then you're screwed.
You're done.
So I mean, in this case, Leatherface was the hero, and I really like that about this movie because we're coming off of the remake in the beginning where Leatherface was just this, big bloodthirsty brute guy, really more Jasonish than Leatherface. But yeah, the beginning and the end I liked. The middle part, the middle part was the middle part for me. It was just, I don't know, didn't like the characters, just felt just poorly written, poorly acted, poorly, just about everything. Honestly, that middle part there for me.
Is there let me ask you about that. And I'm not coming at it defensively, but just trying to pick your brain. Where is the barrier crossed with a movie like this where you say this is just so bad it's good? Do you think you didn't get there for you?
It didn't get that. It didn't get there for me. Like when it's just so bad. They're so bad it's good. And I don't know if I even want. I don't know if I'd even go so far as to say it's bad. It just seemed kind of, I don't know, just kind of boring, fill in the blanks, kind of for me. Diodario's nice to look at. That's,
I
that's
like
a
the other
given.
broad. The other broad was good looking too.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
Some good looking women in that one.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the things that really, and overall, I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, and I gave it a positive review, which at the time,
Not a lot did.
no, people destroyed that freaking movie when it first came out, and I gave it a mostly positive review based on the opening and the ending, and the fact that Leatherface is the hero, and that this Leatherface is more closer to the original Leatherface than what we got in the remake in the beginning. But yeah.
Interesting you said that. So you probably agree with me. You probably feel that was that one of the stronger taking the context of the movie out. You thought that I believe the gentleman's Nick, do you know, is it Dan Yeager? Is that the gentleman's name?
Yes.
Dan Yeager, yeah.
Strong performance, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah, he gives a great performance as Leatherface. I just think that I don't really care for the look so much, but I like the portrayal. Yeah.
I'll go next, Nick. Then we'll get to you. I mean, I remember I saw something in theaters, and I just remember seeing the trailer, "Start the new year with a familiar face," and I was so excited. I was like, "Holy crap! I get to see it." I mean, I get over the moon about Texas Chainsaw Massacre films for some reason. It's just so fun to me. I get so excited. It's just like, I guess because it's close to home, I guess, and I feel like I'm a part of it almost. I mean, even Kentucky's South. I mean, even look at it on the map, say what you want. States like Kentucky and Tennessee, that is the South. It feels like the South. It is the South. So it's like home team. You know what I mean? So I get so excited when these movies come out, and I remember me and Sydney had been dating probably about a year at that point, and I remember telling her, I was like, Sydney, we will be there. 3D glasses, popcorn, everything, the whole schmear. I want the milk duds, I want the snow caps, I want everything. So I remember we went and saw it in theaters, 3D and all. We had to sit closer up because I have poor vision, like far away. So I wanted to be able to sit closer up because I had to wear those glasses. And I mean, I had an absolute blast in the theater with this, man, especially when you see the chainsaw go into the coffin when Daddario's in there. And I'll tell you the one part that got me. Do you remember the part in 3D where the gentleman who's kind of a little dorkier kind of guy, he's checking out the house and he's like, "Hey, look, there's like a butler's pantry in here." And Leatherface is down. He's down in there. My brother describes him as like Leatherface was like this gothic monster hidden down in this basement. And he opens up that door and what doom right on the skull just gets him. I remember I jumped up like that, scared the hell out of me. And we got out the theater and I'm over the moon. I'm like, Sydney, wasn't that really fun? And she was like, she's like, Christian, wasn't Texas Chainsaw 74, not 84, right? I was like, yeah, 74. He goes, how old was she supposed to be? Even she, right out of the theater, she's going And that's the normal reaction. Totally get that. I mean, Piz, this was before Adam described what happened. You know, a lot of people, they just thought this was complete incompetence. And I guess it really kind of is in a sense, because we know now the studio was like, screw it, just make it, put cell phones in there because people are going to love it because there's a cell phone in there. What's the logic behind that?
Yeah.
You know, but my wife is already like, she should have been like in her 40s, right? Or like late 30s or something. I was like, who gives a rat's ass? Wasn't that fun? And, you know, now Sydney's come around big time. I made her watch 3D probably about a month ago. And she loves Leatherface in that movie too. And she you know, she's not impressed by anything, that woman. But I remember she said, you know what? I do really like that Leatherface. Like, it reminds me of the old school Leatherface. I don't know what it is, but I really like it. And, but I guess what I'm saying is I've always really enjoyed this one. For what it is, you know, I really enjoyed this one. Had a blast. Probably my favorite Texas Chainsaw theater experience. Or first of all the Texas Chainsaws besides the original two, seeing them for the first time, regardless it wasn't in the theater, 3D is probably top 5 first viewing Texas Chainsaw films of just sheer fun. So I have nothing but love and good memories of seeing this movie in the theater.
That's probably the last one that we'll ever see in the theater too.
Yeah, you may be right. Nick, where we at?
I saw this opening night, Friday night, 2013. I remember we were excited for it. This is a movie that actually aged differently for me because right now, if you guys have noticed, this movie's kind of having a renaissance among, I think, the fan base. People are starting to come around to this more as time goes on. Whereas when I first saw it, I did have a really fun time too. I really enjoyed it. And as time has gone on, it's actually waned for me. I saw all the flaws the first time, but I was just excited to see one in theaters again after 7 years. And it was just really fun. You know, all that stuff aside of we know the issues with the script in the studio. I just feel like the direction they went with making Leatherface the hero here and the one you root for was I think the right way to go. And I actually remember feeling bad. I still feel bad for him every time Bert is kicking the shit out of him at the end and running his mouth about him and his family. I feel bad for him because, you know, it's just an old guy he's just an old man under that mask. He's, you know, you killed his entire family. He's just very protective of his family. He's probably also, as we know, he's not really mentally developed. So it's kind of sad. So it is nice. I do hate the line. I don't care. I know people love to do your thing, cuz I hate the line, but I like what it stands for. I do. It's not a moment in the movie where I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's just the line, I guess. But yeah, man, I had a fun time with it. It still is fun, but like Piz said, the opening I feel like is particularly strong. I do think it's actually pretty good. The ending is fun. I could have used better CGI in the ending with some of those kills because they're, you know, but I like the setup and I don't care what anybody says. People, you know, crap on the sheriff all the time. Like, oh, one of the issues will say, well, you just let this happen and you walked away and said, clean this shit up. Like, I get it. I love his line when he says, can't get around the good book, Bert. Like, you know, throws that back in his face after what he said, you know, in 74. I like that. You know, it's kind of like eye for an eye. Isn't that the good book? I mean, so I had a fun time with it. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. It is definitely, I think, the issue for me with the movie is you asked the question about when does it get to the point of so bad it's good? I think it gets to that point where you like the people enough to where you know the script is like really bad but the performances are good. And like I can't say that about this movie. I think Daddario does fine, but I think a lot of her friend group, especially the addition of Trey Songz, it's just not there for me, but it's a fun time. It's a fun time. It's one that I didn't need to warm up to. I've actually gotten cooler on it as it's gone on, but I had a fun time in the theater. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is.
All right. You want me to rate it first? I mean, I'll rate it first if we need to.
Yeah, go for it.
Look, man, I hear it's like everybody sees these movies in their own way, and it's not like there's a right or wrong way to really look at it. I mean, your perception of a movie is your perception. Doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. I think that this movie is all that and a bag of chips. I really do. I think this is if this movie was made in the 80s, it'd be everybody's favorite Texas Chain. It'd be one of everybody's favorite Texas Chainsaw movies. To me, it's so bad it's good. I love everything about it. I love that the mask turns into petrified wood seconds after coming off of a guy's face. I love the beauties in this. Daddario could say whatever she wants, and it's the greatest performance of ever, quite frankly. I'm a pig. I can't help myself. She's beautiful. But I think that this movie is so bad it's good. I think the crappy CGI at the end is the cherry on top of a high-calorie fruits treat, or like an artificial. This movie is artificial sugar crap, and I can't get enough of it. I love it so much. For those reasons, I'm going to give it a 9. It's absolute junk food, and it's something I go back to more times than not when I need a TCM fix. Which is weird because I'm giving these good movies lower ratings. But my perception is my perception, and I think we're all individualistic in that way. So junk food is junk food. We all love it, and this is my junk food. I mean, what can I say, Piz? It's my junk food, man. What do you think?
I'd give it a 6.
And I'm gonna go a 5. And that would just be, average to me. I will say though, to your point, we've talked about this, Christian, when you're like, you're rating what you would call objectively better movies lower. Well, you don't need to explain that to me, man. Halloween 5, come on now. I gave that thing a 9.
Again, it's like
yeah.
I think it's like, which one am I going to grab if I need a TCM fix?
Yeah.
Right now, more often than not, the number one I grab, in my opinion, the second best in the series, Part 2. Part 2 is always one that I'm like, only Toby can get this close to his Part 1. But besides Part 2, 3D is that pack of zingers out of the pantry, or that pack of Little Deb. You feel me, Piz? You feel me on that, right? I think you feel me, Piz. I think that rating might. I think that rating's starting to creep.
No, I was just thinking zingers. I could go for a zinger right now.
Oh God! Well, that was fun. I had fun talking about 3D, and I love the look of the Leatherface in this. Something about that petrified wood look. I need somebody listening to this or watching this. If you're a mask maker or know somebody who does a good 3D, because the Tots one is not good enough for me. I want a nice 3D replica. I need that. That's one of my must-haves. But where are we going next? Ooh, I know where we're going. We're going to Bulgaria for the first
straight to
time.
hell.
Piz, what's going on? You see the rumblings. Social media is so a part of everybody's life. 2016, 2017. You read about Leatherface. I mean, what does your head go to at that moment? Is it negative, or is it like, well, this will be another okay entry? I mean, what do you think at the time?
Well, in the beginning, Julian Maury and I can't think of the other guy's name. The duo that did Inside were directing Leatherface.
Aja. Yeah, Aja. Right? Or no, Bustillo. Yes.
Yeah.
Alexander Bustillo.
So I mean that of course was like, okay, these guys they're gonna bring like a Inside kind of aesthetic to Leatherface. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. But then it's like, okay, they're already gone. They left really quick for creative differences. And it's going to be
the last time.
No, it wasn't the first time for them, and it wasn't the last time for them. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they were originally doing the Halloween that followed Rob Zombie's Halloween, and then they left that, and Zombie got back involved in that. But anyway, another prequel. This one an even further back prequel than the beginning. We're going to see young child Leatherface, how he becomes Leatherface. It was bottom basement expectations. It just didn't sound good. It just didn't sound good. It sounded almost like one of those. It sounded like one of those Hellraiser sequels. Like it started out as another movie, and they just said, just make the kid Leatherface.
Right.
Um,
There's a lot of speculation about that too. After
I mean,
seeing the movie, a lot of people think that could be what happened.
that could definitely be a possibility. I don't know, but it just I went into that movie with pretty low expectations, and it was even with low expectations, it was still like, oh God, what are they doing?
Yeah.
I think there was, as I recall, there was maybe one or two good shocking sequences in it, but other than that, it was just like, why does this exist? And they do the twist where you think it's going to be the big heavy set kid who's going to be Leatherface, and
Right.
it turns out it's the little skinny kid, and it yeah, like why the thing with the movie, like it's not even, you can't even be that mad at it, because it's like, I don't know, it's like it's not even trying, and yeah, it's just so forgettable, and just let's just pretend it doesn't exist, honestly.
Right. Where do you watch this first? Do you wait for it to come out on Blu-ray? Do you what is called VOD, where you can purchase it a few weeks earlier?
I VOD, yeah, and yeah, I was wanting that $3 or however much it was back.
Let me ask you this: how far into the movie did you say, you know what, this isn't going to be for me? How quick into the movie, or how far out into the movie?
It seemed like it was it was evident really early on, like, this is not good, and it's not going to get better. Yeah. That's my memory of it. It's just like right out the gate, I was just like, oh God.
Yeah, I remember when this came out, I didn't purchase it on video on demand a few weeks earlier. But I remember me and the wife, we went to Walmart or something one day, and I remember seeing the Blu-ray on the shelf. And I hate to judge a movie by its cover, but I did, and I didn't buy it for that reason. I thought when I saw the poster for it, I was like, you know what? I think I can wait. I mean, I didn't know how else to put it. I was like, I think I can wait. Something about it did not call my name, and a previous band I was in, he said, "Hey man, you come over. I bought the Leatherface movie I bought it digitally. He go, I'll cook some steaks and we'll watch it." We went over there and watched it, and I remember when we got done that night, me and Sydney drove home. We had a 30-minute ride drive home, and I was like, "Did you like that?" And she says, "Absolutely not. I did not like that at all." And then I said, "Sydney, what did you not like about it?" And she's just saying, like, she was like, it just seemed so just bland, and just it's like it was like food with no seasoning on it. I don't know how to explain it. She was like, it was just dead on arrival. It just felt dead. And I was like, it didn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And she went like that to me, like, you're right. I'll be honest with you. I put a lot of credence into the location, and I can't really say that anymore because of the following film, which we'll get to, but it doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film to me. And I really wish I could explain that better, because that's such a bold statement to make without being able to explain it. But it doesn't, I don't know how else to say it. It just doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw. Every entry before has, in one way or the other, but this one just doesn't feel like it to me. And I'm just,
Yeah. And it's not just because, I mean, really, Leatherface isn't even in the movie. You know what I mean? I'm a little kid, but not even. It's just like Sydney. Yeah, it's unseasoned food. It's very dry. It's just, it has no flavor to it. You eat it, and then a second later, you forget that you ate it.
Yeah. And so we never watch it. I've watched it 2 more times. She's never wanted to watch it again. She has no interest. She has no interest. The only one she'll watch at this point is 3D Part 1. She loves Part 1. She loves Part 1 to death. She's always getting little image, like Texas Chainsaw Leatherface art for the house. And what else ones will she watch? She hates the remake. She despises the remake. That's one of her least favorites. minutes. She's a stiff broad, man. I tell you, she doesn't like a lot of these movies, but when she's in, she's in. Texas Chainsaw, she'll agree. Nick, what about Leatherface 2017? Probably not as good memories as or as bad as mine, quite frankly.
I did the DirecTV rental because that's what it came out on. That's how you knew this was really going to be a big hit. It was direct to DirecTV.
It was because I remember.
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I remember now scrolling on my dad's TV and seeing it like the long box thing when you're going through the channels. I remember seeing it now.
Yep, and
That's funny.
I was living with my buddy Dave at the time, and I was like, dude, let's just rent it. And we didn't hate it, like we really didn't, but we both said the same thing. We were like, that wasn't a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, though. That feels like it was like a Devil's Rejects ripoff that they shoehorned Leatherface in at the very end to be like, oh, see, we're connected somehow to this large franchise. It is uninspired. It's not scary. It's not particularly well acted. But I will say I do feel like it's competently shot. I think the gore is pretty effective. The whodunit was a little on the nose. I mean, we knew you were trying to set us up. Like, I feel like, did either one of you guys watch that movie and go, wow, this is really interesting. Maybe they're gonna, throw a wrench into it. Like, no, everybody knew what was happening. We knew it wasn't going to be the obvious choice the entire time. In my opinion, at least. So it was okay at the time. And then I did buy it on DVD. I never bought the Blu-ray because I bought the DVD and watched it again. And I was like, yeah, I don't need the Blu-ray of that. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it belongs here. I don't think it's a poorly shot film or anything like that. It's not long. The effects aren't bad. It's just, I don't know. There's nothing that makes you want to come back to it. And when you finally do get Leatherface, like, come on. Oh, he got shot in the face and his face was hanging off and he had to stitch it. Leatherface. Like, that's the creation. Like, and because he had a scar that he wanted to wear people's faces, like shut the hell up. No,
Yeah.
That's so dumb. Yeah. It's just, no, I could do without it existing.
Well, let me correct myself here. Alexander Bastillo and Julian Maury are the credited directors. For some reason, I thought they started and then they were replaced. No, they are the credited directors. That's probably why the movie looks as good as it does, because,
yeah, they're competent filmmakers. Yeah,
they're talented filmmakers. It just, I think what they had to work with was not much.
No, I think you're being very kind to it. I can't remember if it was the reason I got tripped up is because one of these movies, either the last one or Leatherface, Alexandra Aya or Aha, however you pronounce his last name, was in talks to do one of these two near the beginning. I can't remember which one it was, but he was someone that was tapped initially. I think it was Leatherface. I do think it was Leatherface. And then that just ended up not working. And, he's a really good director too. But it just shows, this filmmaking team, they're good. And it didn't really matter because they got a script that just sucked. I mean, there is no reason this movie needs to exist. None. The beginning, even if you don't like the beginning, it does answer questions and it connects to the movie that's supposed to come after it, where you can go, okay, I can see the purpose of this movie's existence. Leatherface's exists. No, it doesn't need to exist. Nope.
Let me devil's advocate what you're just saying right now. Define what you mean by doesn't need to exist and what movie needs to exist. Just devil's advocate, because you got to understand, when we come hard against some of these movies like this, there are going to be people that are going to be defensive because they can't, like we talked about this, Nick, they can't be a part of this argument or they can't be a part of this conversation. Just so devil's advocate, define what you mean.
That's fine. I will say this though. From what you know and what I know and what Piz knows and everybody knows about the origin of the character from 1974 or any of the subsequent sequels, the remake, and then its prequel, was anything that this movie set up, anything that we had any inkling of in any of those movies? No. The genesis of Leatherface had nothing to do with how this guy ends up becoming Leatherface. The bullet wound to the face, stitching his face up. Now he's deformed. And all of a sudden, even though for 75 minutes of this 80-minute movie, he seems like a normal guy that means well, all of a sudden, because he got shot in the cheek, is like, I must wear skin and kill people. It just does not work. It doesn't work. I mean, in these previous movies, it made sense. He was ashamed of the way he looked, and that he was very close with his family, yes, but he was also the black sheep of that family, in the sense of he was the whipping boy. He was the one that got picked on. He was the one, like, yeah, in a lot of those movies, at least. So, and then in this one, it was just completely unnecessary. That tissue wasn't there. Those plot points weren't there. And this guy's transition into Leatherface, I feel like, just makes no sense to any of the source material leading up to this point. So that's why I say it just doesn't need to exist. Because if you were going to at least tie it to the original and be like, you could, if this movie ended and you went, I could see that guy being Gunnar Hansen and from 74's movie, but you can't. So I just, no.
I'm proud of you, Nick. I'm proud of you. See, this is what I like to see. When people say something really negative about a film, when they can articulate what they mean instead of just saying, this doesn't need to exist. What you just did, a lot of people can learn from that. Piz understands too. Being able to genuinely express something instead of dismissing something. I'm really proud of you. I think you spelled it out pretty good.
Yeah, and that was a very good explanation. Yeah.
And I will say to anybody that likes this movie, because the first time I watched it, I didn't hate it. If you like it for what it is, that's totally fine. But I just mean in the sense of like getting me as the viewer to believe that is Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface in his teenage years and early adult years. Bullshit. No way. No way.
Yeah.
All right. So before we rate it, Piz and me, because Nick, you kind of did. Piz and me have to give one good compliment about this film.
I think I already took the obvious one.
Well, I did say there were a couple of shocking moments that I don't remember exactly what they were, but I do remember there were a couple of moments that were kind of shocking.
I can probably tell you one. The broad who kisses the dead dude on the toilet or something, and the bath. That was like, oh my god. They went for it there. So I'm
the sex on the dead body. Yeah,
I'll give them. Yeah. I'll give it that, because that. For what that was in the moment, I remember looking at Sydney. I was like, "Damn, like that's disgusting."
Yeah, yeah. That was like the one inspired moment in this movie. The rest of the movie is just completely. Blah.
Hey, it is cool when they hide in that carcass of that cow. I did think that was cool when they're hiding from the cops and they have to get in that cow carcass. That's pretty nasty. That's pretty nasty.
The image of the kid wearing the cow's head with the hole in the between the eyes, that's kind of a cool image too.
Yeah. There we go. Piz, I don't know. Let me ask you this before I give my rating. Genuinely, when I ask this, can any movie really be worse than like a 3? Honestly, like when you take a movie, it got made, it has audio, the camera's mostly in focus, it's got credits. Can anything really be worse than I'm talking a 3?
Well, you know what I mean? I was going to give Leatherface a 2.
Ooh.
That's fine. I'm just because from my perspective, it's like I think 3 is really the lowest I really want to go for like movies that I'm just not a fan of at all. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I feel like if you filmed it and you got it done, but it could at least be a 3. I don't know. I
hear your argument and raise you. Black Christmas 2019.
I'd give it a 3. Oh. They filmed it. I hate it. I hate that movie, but I mean, they still made a movie. They
couldn't even get the Christmas aesthetic right, though. At least that's one thing 06 did well. They at least had a great atmosphere. That didn't even have atmosphere. It didn't even feel like Christmas.
That one would be like a 0 for me.
Yeah.
I suppose you're going a 2 for Leatherface.
A 2 for Leatherface. Yeah.
I'll give it a. If for me, if a 3 is as low as I'd like to really go, even though I think I gave like Resurrection a 2, I wouldn't do that now. I would at least give it a 4, but I'll give this one a 4 as well. I'll give Leatherface a 4 because they've made it. There are a few things I like. That's 1, 2, bump it up a little bit, half a point. I'll give it a 4.
I'm going 4 as well. And honestly, I would probably go 5 or 6 if they changed the title and didn't have the end try to connect to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because it, as a road movie with psychos from a mental institution just creating havoc, not totally boring. I mean, you're not watching it. It's really briskly paced too. Like it's gory. It's not totally boring, but it's because what it tried to live in this franchise where it does not belong. No, yeah, I'm gonna go 4 as well. Yeah,
And let me feed off of that, Piz. Is there something to be said with? Is there something to be said about watching a movie in a prequel sense as well? That if, like what Nick was saying, if this movie wasn't a Texas film at all, and it was just this movie. I mean, you can only speculate. You
I don't know
can't live in a hyper reality.
if it wasn't.
Would you think
if
it would come and
wasn't,
go on as well?
I
If it
don't know
wasn't a Texas film, no connection to the movies. I mean, you can only speculate, but like, there's got to be some weight into connective tissue when you say this is part of a franchise that for you and for me and for Nick, he gives the remake a 10. Me and you, the original's our favorite. We think it's the best horror movie. It's not my favorite, but I think it's the best horror movie ever made. There has to be this invisible set of weights and chains on this film that it's going to weigh it down, which means it has a lot more. It has to live up more. There's do you think that's something consciously there for a lot of us?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you add a movie to a franchise, to part of a legacy, then yeah. I mean, there's certain. If it was just called, I don't know, Road Trip from Hell, it wouldn't have the same expectations as, okay, this is another prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And as a matter of fact, I think making it a prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably, I mean, if it started out as not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre related thing, and they, you know, appropriated the chainsaw stuff into it,
Right.
that was probably the worst thing they could have done. Because yeah, it got a lot of people's attention, but not the right attention, and it just wasn't very good. If it take the chainsaw stuff out of it, maybe let Bustillo and Mori do a rewrite, you could have something there, sure. But as a prequel to Texas Chainsaw, I mean, I would just echo everything that Nick said. I mean, what he said was perfect.
There we go.
hell yeah.
So let's just get to this. I mean, this is exactly why people are watching this video, Piz, what we're about to get into right now. I mean, let's face it. The most controversial film of 2022 so far is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd say let's talk about our thoughts, but we've documented that well. I mean, to sum it up, really didn't know what the hell to think going to Netflix, right? I mean, this was unprecedented. A slasher icon going to Netflix. I mean,
it had a lot of baggage with it long before it saw the light of day, because this was one where there was a director who fell out early on, and David Blue Garcia came in, and there were the test screenings that were just so abysmal that this was supposed to be a theatrical release. And then after those test screenings, Legendary lost all faith in it and sold it to Netflix. And the test screenings were bad. So I definitely think they did some rewrites and some editing on that movie before it premiered on Netflix. I think that was a very good thing. So expectations for it before that first trailer were way down there. Not quite Leatherface expectations, but down there. And
I mean,
of course, it's following Leatherface, which, you
felt it could only go up from there, probably.
Well, I mean, yeah, to go down would be like, I don't, the whole thing would have to be shot out of focus and be like, out of sync with the audio, and that's the only way it could be worse. But
right.
But still, there were pretty low expectations because Legendary had given up on it. The the test screening feedback had leaked, and it just sounded bad all the way around. Then that first trailer happened, and I went, "Oh wow, I'm
There might be
excited to
something
see this
there.
now. There might be
Yeah.
something there." Yeah, my
Okay.
excitement went up after seeing that trailer.
Okay, let's pause right there. You mentioned something earlier about test screenings. And it's interesting. It makes me wonder something. I just want your thoughts on this. I remember when Halloween 2018 came out, there was these rumors of these test screenings, and
Mhm.
they weren't going so well. But John Carpenter goes on Twitter and says there were no test screenings. I remember it vividly. He goes, there were no test screenings. My speculation is one of two things. He was lying, or he is so out of the loop because he doesn't give a rat's ass about anything but his money. God bless him for it, that he either didn't know, but obviously these things don't want to come out. Are these people not signing non-disclosures when they go to these tests? What's going on? How does
Well,
this stuff get out?
it when Halloween Kills first got test screened, somebody got in touch with me on Twitter and fed me a bunch of information about the test screenings.
Who
And
was
they were
it?
like,
I'm
they were
kidding.
like, they were like, you can't say my name. Don't even tell them my Twitter. Don't even say my Twitter handle. You know, I, I believe he said there were NDAs or something to that effect. And, but every movie gets test screened. Every theatrical movie gets test screened. So Halloween 2018 got test screened. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
And there were things changed about Halloween 2018. If you watch that movie's a Frankenstein. It is just edited and poorly edited together. It's really slopped together. And part of that's because they cut some stuff out of it, and it's reshoots and just stuff they cut out, decided not to reshoot. Or even like there's some really jarring edits where like let's not even go there, but it's like they said, well, let's not try to reshoot that or put some filler in there to explain or to bridge this cut to that. They just slapped it together and there.
So you go get Nick worked up now. You
Well,
talking about
no.
Halloween?
He's right. I'm not a huge fan of 2018, so I completely agree with that. To Piz's point too, and to your question, yeah, I think John just didn't know, because test screenings are usually handled pretty much by the studio, at least from my knowledge. That's more for the studio, the bigwigs, the people that put the money into it, to get a reaction from the general public,
Right.
so they can know, I don't want to lose money on this. So we need to find out what people think of this, because if something needs to get changed, then we're going to go to the director and say, guess what? People hated this, so you better change it or I'm pissing money away. I had a friend that saw it, Halloween Kills test screening in February of 2020, and he messaged me on Facebook and fed me every bit of information I wanted to know. And so, yeah, I mean, it's happening. To these test screenings, what I want to say to this point is, I also spoke to a guy on Twitter in October that saw a test screening of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in October, and we were messaging back and forth. He told me about the bus scene. He told me about the school shooting plot point, all of these things. Like he got in detail with me, and he was just shitting on this movie. And so was everybody else that saw these test screenings. And I just want to know, who did they have go to these test screenings? Were these children that couldn't understand what the point of this movie was? Because all you heard was, it's so woke, it's woke garbage, it's woke trash. And the vibe I got, and I'm sure both of you got after watching this movie, was, if anything, they're poking fun at that. They want you to want those characters to die. Like,
I think they toned it down a lot. I think they toned it down a lot in that edit, because you said that 3D was like 80 minutes or whatever. This one's the same. It feels to me like there's a lot that was cut out of this movie, and I think a lot of the anti-gun stuff, that rhetoric got cut out. I think a lot of the I just think a lot of the woke stuff got cut out, and the fact that it almost seems like it's anti-woke may not have been intended, but because they cut stuff out, it kind of made it feel that way. I don't know. But yeah, that was with all the test screenings where it's super woke, it's anti-gun, it's it's I mean, you name it. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think they toned that. I think that was very smart of them to tone that back.
All right, and I want to let this one breathe for a minute. I want people to be able to really hear our thoughts on this because, like I said, this is why they're watching. Besides that, we have the great Pizzle, my YouTube hero, here with us. I mean,
Yes.
they're here. They want to hear or what. I remember telling Nick. He said when we talked about Scream on the podcast, he said there was an aura about this movie. I knew it was going to be different. And I basically kind of said the same thing to Nick, but I didn't know that the aura was going to be two camps. Love it, hate it.
Mm.
And that's exactly what we have. I felt something coming. I knew that this film was going to, I just knew, I felt it in my gut. I was like, dude, this movie, I'm telling you, Nick, wait till this thing comes out. And Piz, take me through watching this movie. Let's talk about the days leading up. What's going through your mind? You're hearing about a few people talk. You get to see this movie. Like, take me to that day when you're getting ready to watch. What's going through your head? All that.
I must have been. I mean, I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it because it went live at 3 a.m. on the East Coast.
Wow.
On Netflix. So I stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch it. So I guess that should tell you something. And yeah, I mean, I was excited to see it, and pretty early on into it. I mean, I'll borrow your analogy. This movie to me was like that Hostess cupcake. It's just so good, and so you know it's bad for you, but it tastes so good. It just hits that spot. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what this movie was for me. It was, and I don't want to say I don't think it was. I think this was a good movie. I really do. It's got flaws. Every movie's got flaws, but for the 8th sequel in a franchise that never should have been a franchise, this was just so fun. Every minute of it to me was super fun. You know, I loved it.
And I'm going to come back to you. I was the same way. I absolutely fell in love with this movie watching it. My wife was like, Christian, are you enjoying yourself? Because we were eating popcorn watching it. Every scene where Leatherface was just wrecking shop, I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, this is one of my favorite Leatherface performances I've ever seen.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna get, when we get done with this, I've got a lot of things I want to bring up and ask you, ask Nick, and ask myself, and just for us to discuss, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions for those who are fans of this movie. We'll get there, but when I got done with this movie, I remember my friend Lee, who got to see it a few days early. He said, Christian, it was exactly what you wanted it to be. It's carnage candy, I think, is the terminology he used. He's like, dude, it was a snack. It was a good, tasty snack, and I loved it for that. So yeah, I had a blast. I was so excited to review this movie. Did not look at the comments for a while because I just knew when it got done. I said, this is gonna be a divider, big time. But I loved it. Not even a half of a minute getting done. I remember I got up, the credits rolled. I said, I'm going to review the hell out of this movie. That was so fun. And Sydney too. I'm kind of talking about my wife with this podcast, but she was just like, yeah, for what that was, can't really complain. Again, she's a woman of very few words, but she summed it up pretty good. So yeah, money for me, absolute money. Again, I'll talk more about it, but Nick, you got to see it. I think you said you saw it. You had stuff going on. You saw it a day or so afterwards.
Yeah, so Fridays and Saturdays I work 12-hour shifts. Those are my 2 long days of the week, and then I'm off Sundays and Mondays. So I couldn't catch it Friday, mainly because I got home and I was like, dude, I'm gonna have a little bit of time with my wife, go to bed, go work all day tomorrow. So I'll catch it Saturday night. And I got Christian just badgering me via text, dude, it's so good. It's so good. Leather is so badass. You're gonna love it. I'm like, I'm watching it tonight. And my entire experience through this movie, I'm having a good time. It's fun. It's briskly paced. You know, I think this movie is beautiful. It's one of the most cinematic, I think, Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. David Blue Garcia is not a name any of us knew going into this. This man has an eye, and whoever the DP was too. They have an eye for this, and I think that it came across the screen really well. Love the colors in this movie. But I remember we were watching when he slides the chainsaw at Lila to, you know, cut her leg before she can get to the gun. I literally turned to my wife and said, "That's awesome." And she laughed too. And then, you know, the whole false ending happens with the, "Oh, I'm going to swipe up in victory and hit you in the face and you're going to fall in the puddle." I'm watching it with my brother and my wife. My brother says, "If that's the end, this movie sucked." And my wife said, "If that's the end, this was a complete waste of time." And I said, "Yeah, hold on, guys. I'm just saying, I heard there was like kind of a false ending, but I agree. If that's how it ends, it's going to leave a real sour taste in my mouth." Loved the cut eyebrows head off and, you know, just doing the chainsaw dance. I loved it. I loved that ending. That was like, yes, you redeemed that final fight, because there was so much about that final fight. I think we agree that was kind of like, okay, like Sally's not dead after getting like bisected by a chainsaw, like whatever. These two girls took Leatherface down, like, okay, whatever. So it was nice to be like, nah, we're just kidding. That's not how it's going to end. He's not going out like a punk. But I remember feeling the same way. But Christian asked me a question the other night, and he was bang on. I was surprised he knew. He said, "You know, man, when you texted me right after you saw it, I got this feeling from what you were saying that you hated it. You weren't saying you hated it, but it like seemed like you hated it." He's like, "Was that frustration?" I said, "Absolutely, absolutely frustration." And it's something that I know Christian wants to touch on, so I won't touch on it too much, but I will get into that. But I had a really fun time with this movie. I mean, I really did. I feel like this is what, in my opinion, this may be controversial, Christian. I feel like this is what 3D wanted to be. And I say that because I think the team with this movie knew you weren't going to like these characters and that you would want them to die. And 3D kind of sets you up that way too, but they also spend a lot of time with those characters, and it's just a big nothing burger with those characters. There's no arc. It's just like, die already. Like, I don't care. Whereas in this movie, it's like one by one, they're just going. It doesn't matter if it's Sally. No one's safe. Like, no one is safe. And they don't give you enough time with these characters one-on-one to try to pretend like you should care about them. And that is the way to go about it. The fact that you didn't try to sell me on characters that were admittedly subpar, you did it right. You did it right. So yeah, it was fun, man. It was a fun time.
Before we enter the gauntlet mode, you know,
yes.
I've been thinking about this. You just said something. They didn't want you to like these characters. They didn't want you. Correct. That's what you said. That's what your interpretation is, right? They didn't want you to care about these characters. I want to say
they didn't try. I'll just say that. I don't feel they tried too hard to make you like them.
Let me, and that's, you know, I felt the same way, but let me tell you something. The more I think about it, Piz, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of good, silly, bad, good, whatever you want to call it, especially from the 80s, those movies that you love that are just cheesy, superficial, they weren't trying to make bad movies, were they? They were inexperienced, no-name people, family-friendly kind of stuff, like your October Bloods and your this and that. They go in with good intentions. The cheese comes from the actual art of trying. Am I right? Because, look, Hatchet movies, Adam Green is making spoofs of those 80s so bad they're good slasher films. That's what he's doing. And you can clearly tell a director that is doing that on purpose when you watch those movies. Because when I say it's so over the top, it's beyond over the top, right? I mean, when you see John Carl Buechler's intestines get stretched out by Victor Crowley and pissing in a male urinal and giving it to Danielle Harris to drink out of, here, drink out of this. Clearly, that's ridiculous. I don't know that they were trying to make characters that were so bad they're good. I don't know. They very well could, but the charm of it to me could be that, and again, I agree that there was probably a lot of stuff cut out of this movie. It's probably a lot of stuff cut. And I think if that's the case, it completely 180'd the film that we got. I think that's a possibility.
it's a good point. The counterpoint to that, I would say, is I'm agreeing though. One, those movies that did it on purpose, those are the template now. Now these filmmakers nowadays have a template of, okay, if we're giving you characters we don't need you to care about, how do we handle that without trying too hard? So there's a template for it now. Two, there is also, I think it might have been unintentional. I think that we may come away from this going, I didn't care about those characters, but I didn't need to because of post-production. Not and not like Piz said, maybe because of the cuts, you come out of it and the team, as they're in post, they're going, well, these cuts actually make these characters kind of pointless, but isn't that kind of the point? And it's like, oh, okay, maybe it was a happy accident. You know, maybe it was just in post-production. It was a happy accident because they probably were like nails on a chalkboard characters. I mean, if there were that many cuts, we probably really would have been like, oh God, I hate these people. But I think maybe it was a happy accident.
And there's one man who knows the answer to that. Well, there's a couple, probably. The editor, the director. And we'll probably never, ever really know the truth. Because, I mean, Piz, if you make a movie with completely good intentions and it edits and turns into what it is, and the perception from those that like it say it's so junk food good, all these people, you just want to see him die. As a director, it's like, I can't see him admitting to that. You know what I mean? I mean, I think it may be one of those things, it's better left unsaid from the director's standpoint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let the people make of it what they want.
Or, I mean, maybe the director is just happy that people are watching this thing. I mean, the director, he's got to know this isn't art. You know, that he's not going to be nominated for an Oscar for this. People are watching. You know, we were talking about this on Region Free, of everything that's on Netflix, and there's a lot of stuff on Netflix. Chainsaw was number 2. With, I forget how many million or billions of hours that it had been watched.
28 at the time.
Yes, 28.
At the time. So we're probably over 30.
That was insane. Because, I mean, it's up against Stranger Things and just these shows that, like, you know, one episode of Stranger Things costs more than Texas Chainsaw Massacre did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't have a calculator, but do the math on that. Divide 28 million by, you know, 80 minutes. You know, that would be on average, one screen is 80 minutes. Well, how many screens then were watched? That's tens of thousands of people that watched it, if not hundreds of thousands. So yeah.
So and I mean, you know, Netflix took note of that, and I'm sure they're already talking about a sequel.
And they better bring back David Blue Garcia. Bring him back.
I agree.
All right, Biz. So before we get to the rating, this is going to be probably the main event of this video. I'm going to call this the gauntlet mode. You are a well-articulate man. You're not afraid to share your opinion. You've been doing it for over a decade on the internet now.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has been extremely divisive. A lot of people that are on the other side of the fence, they have questions. And I've been getting these questions. You're a much larger YouTuber, so whatever I get, it's probably a multiplier by at least 2 or 3 for you. So let me ask you a couple questions, devil's advocate, because I'm with you on this. I like this movie, but I want to give you a chance to explain. And it's not necessary that you need to justify your answers, but because, again, some of the things I've gotten feedback on this podcast is they want to feel a part of the conversation a little bit more. So for those people, this is a question that I've seen a lot. For me, for you, a lot of people, but especially for me and you, because this is, we agree, this is the greatest horror, the original is the greatest ever. Mm-hmm. How could you, as somebody who thinks the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the greatest film, find anything redeeming about this pile of shit? I know, you know what I mean? You got that a lot.
I got that question too, yeah.
Well, here's your floor. Take the floor.
Because this isn't the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's only one Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I don't think David Blue Garcia had any intention to make this movie anything remotely close to the original film. As far as, you know, quality, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is lightning in a bottle. Nobody will ever come close to duplicating it. So, and again, this is the 8th sequel. You know, did you expect the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre out of the 8th sequel? I don't know. Do you expect Halloween 1, when you went and watched Halloween Resurrection, were you that upset that Halloween Resurrection wasn't Halloween 1 when you went and saw it? You know, that argument just doesn't make any sense to me at all, because we're talking about these franchises where, you know, are you going to go into the next, are you going to go into Halloween Ends expecting it to be as good as the original Halloween? And are you going to be upset when it's not? Or are you going to like it for what it is?
All right. Here's another question. I'm glad you brought up Halloween, because this is something not necessarily posed to you, but something I saw. You're on Twitter as well as I am. There's always the conversations, and there's always a lot of fans that like to bring up Halloween in any condition. Nick's one of those people. One of the arguments, be proud of it, Nick. You're a Halloween guy. One of the arguments I've seen, and again, Piz, this is something I see as a broad question, and you're the man to answer it. You were not a fan of Halloween Kills.
Mhm.
How dare you be a fan of this film? How dare you? This movie wasn't even anywhere near as good as Halloween Kills. That's something I'm seeing. How do you justify, not that you need to, but to the question is a lot of people think Halloween Kills was a much more prestigious over the top slasher film that was more money. It was hokey in a I would say probably an unintentional way as well, with the Evil Dies Tonight thing. It's over the top. People laugh at it. You've made jokes about the ironing board. How dare you be a fan of this film but not Halloween Kills? That's hypocritical. I've seen that all over the internet. Do you have a response to something like that?
Comparing this to Halloween Kills, again, it's two very different movies. Halloween Kills was very violent and over the top, but it was, I guess it was supposed to be taken seriously. I don't know. Some of it, I think some of it was, and some of it wasn't. But then you had the Danny McBride, I think, over what's his name shoulder going, more penis jokes, man. More penis jokes. With Chainsaw, I mean, it's Chainsaw to me is a fun, light horror movie. Halloween Kills was not fun. It wasn't light. It was just bad. Halloween Kills was just bad. I'm sorry. It was just bad. In my opinion.
And I mean, sometimes it's hard to express fully, like, you know what, it didn't click for me. And you know what it is, Piz, you've been on the internet for a long time. People demand answers for these kinds of things, you know? And sometimes it's just like, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah.
for
I
me.
mean, when it's like you have to jump through 20 hoops to justify your opinion, it's not worth it. Your opinion is your opinion. And the issue is there are people out there who, if your opinion doesn't jibe with theirs 100%, then they are offended.
Mm-hmm.
And to those people, I mean, good God, there's a lot more serious things going on than people's opinions of a horror movie. So I don't know, maybe get out more. Maybe yeah, get out more. I don't know. Talk to people in real life, maybe. I don't know.
And one more thing about this. Now, this is just my question. Do you feel that there's also levity with the prestige of a movie like Halloween? Huge box office, huge Universal's Golden Boy, Halloween Kills, coming to a theater near you. This is the one you've been waiting for. We're going back to the original classic Halloween. Everywhere in theaters, press, Jamie Lee Curtis, all over the news stations, everything. Commercials here, commercials there, in your face. Oh, by the way, Texas Chainsaw Massacre's got a Netflix coming out 2 days before. Is there something, does that go into your process of leveling these kinds of movies? Is there an argument to be had with that?
I don't know. For me, whether I have high expectations or low expectations for a movie, I'm always excited to watch the movie when I sit down to watch it. Even if I'm sure it's going to be bad. I was excited to watch Halloween Kills. and that excitement went away pretty quick. I was excited to sit down and watch the new Chainsaw, and that excitement only built. So I don't know. I just like watching movies, and I get excited about watching movies. So that's I don't
like that.
I don't weigh the budgets necessarily going into them. I mean, I just, you know, and even though I'm dreading Halloween Ends, I'm sure when I sit down to watch it, I'll be excited when the
see it.
lights go down. Yeah, and the movie starts,
Right.
and hopefully it'll
You'll have a good
be.
time. It'll be
Hopefully,
for
I'll have
you.
a good time. Exactly.
I aptly put. Well, Piz, thank you for doing that, because I think that's not a lot of people do what you just did to defend yourself. Not that you need to, or you're supposed to, quite frankly.
Right.
But for those people that have that opposite opinion, and most people are really cool about it. Most people are like, really, Piz, you were a fan of this movie? That's interesting. I didn't expect that. What do you mean you liked it? Can you explain why? Because they have their parallels and the reasons they don't like it. So I think it's always interesting to articulate that.
Everybody's opinion is valid. Just because yours doesn't jibe 100% with mine is
It's not right or wrong. It's
not right or
yours.
wrong. Yeah, exactly. So if you hated the new Texas Chainsaw, great. You know what I mean? If you loved it, that's great too. I mean, whatever floats your boat. Not everybody finds the same jokes funny. So not everybody's going to like the same movies. It's just I don't know. What's that old saying? It's the flavor of life. What is it?
Variety is the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life.
There we go. Nick, you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean you can't argue with opinions,
honesty,
and taste, and I mean it's very eloquently put. I mean, Piz even said himself, he's like, look, I just didn't like it. It's not even like I can say, well, for a fact this is better than this or this is worse than this because X, Y, and Z. No, it's some people jive with one thing, some people jive with another, some people like both, some people hate both. I mean, that's totally fine. The issue I took with the response from the comparisons that people were making between the two movies was I was seeing complaints about Halloween Kills, gratuitous violence and characters that people didn't like, and then I would see people praise the violence and characters in TCM. And I'm like, if there are reasons you like it, like other than that, that's totally fine. But I felt like those lines were like, I mean, those lines aren't necessarily that blurry when it comes to the two. I think they're both gratuitous violence. I do think that I will say Texas Chainsaws is definitely handled with a little bit more class. I think there are some kills in Halloween Kills that are a little like, this is kind of comic booky.
Works for me.
Big John. Yeah, it works for me too, but like the Big John death is one that comes to mind for me.
I know for a fact Piz is a fan of Big John now.
Well,
what's that song, Piz? It's Halloween.
Those guys, those guys and the Iron Woman at the end.
Yes.
my favorite parts of Halloween Kills.
Yes.
Plastic, right?
But I mean, and to we were talking about the beginning. The violence in the beginning is very nihilistic and just it's so dark and grimy. The violence in Chainsaw, the new one, to me was just like so. It's tongue in cheek. It's fun. The violence in Halloween Kills wasn't fun to me. It was a little over the top. It was kind of, I don't know. Let's not go there. It was Halloween Kills and this Chainsaw. They're two different. They're both slasher movies. They're both parts of a franchise. That's it. That's it.
Yes. And to your point, Christian, about expectations, I will just say us as movie fans, let alone horror fans, we can't help but in the back of our minds go into things with some kind of expectations every time. And a lot of that is studio driven and marketing and whatnot. I mean, yeah, the expectation of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is following up 2017's Leatherface, which a lot of people regard as the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Oh, and it's going straight to Netflix, and all you've heard are bad things about it. Okay, so I'm going in thinking I'm getting a shit pile. So if I get, you get something better than that, you're like, okay, what was all this hoopla about? Like, why was all this bad press about it? Whereas Halloween Kills, let's not kid ourselves. Halloween 2018, as much as a lot of us diehard, it's crazy how it got such good reviews, because I think the three of us agree, not a bad movie, but I'm not going to find myself rewatching it a lot. Like, it's just
way too clean now.
Yeah,
I'd take
it's just
Kills over
whatever.
18 at this point.
But the hype machine behind Kills was huge because of the way that movie was received critically and commercially. And
don't forget the wait. Don't
yeah,
forget the wait.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing Jamie Lee. You're saying this is a continuation of 78. You're getting all these old players back. You have expectations. I had expectations going into it, but I did something with Kills I didn't do with 2018. I went in going, based off of this trailer, I know I'm not getting anything close to 78. So I'm just going to sit here and see what they give me. Whereas 2018, I went in like, I need a true sequel to that movie. And I was bummed. I remember walking out of 2018 and I was like, I don't know, man. I was bummed. Yeah, like I was bummed. So I feel like no matter what, expectations will always creep into our mind a little bit. But yeah, you say the thing about Prestige, and you and I had that conversation. It's true. I mean, you get Jamie Lee Curtis back on there. You get a bunch of these returning characters, whether they're no-name roles or not. I mean, shit, Anthony Michael Hall wasn't the original Tommy Doyle, but everybody knows Anthony Michael Hall. There was some prestige to it. And to go in and get a very over-the-top borderline action movie starring Michael Myers with little to no suspense or scares or really anything like that, yeah, I could totally understand why people were like, what the hell, man? I had a great time with it. But I'm not going to say it's it's a masterpiece of filmmaking. No. Right. But I'm one of those people that enjoys both. And when I was texting Christian after I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was frustrated because I want people to enjoy both. Because I really do, because I think they are dissimilar in a lot of ways, and they are similar in ways too. And I think that maybe that's just the eternal optimist in me, that we can all agree on things. Like, everyone's going to like every movie, and it's a bummer. But I have always gone to guys like Christian and Piz and Lee for their thoughts on a movie. I won't lie to you, Piz. I watched your review of Halloween Kills. It broke my heart. I'm not even kidding. It broke my heart.
Tell me that's not one of his most hilarious reviews.
It's hilarious. The entire rant about the ironing board at the end. I mean, I was laughing my ass off, but I'm sitting here going, God, I wanted him to like it, because I knew he was let down by 2018. I knew we all were.
You know who put the iron in that woman's hand. Danny McBride was off stage going, hand me that iron, man. Hey, hold. Go.
This is the best part of the review. I'm paraphrasing, but Piz's editing has gotten so good. I'm just putting Piz. I'm praising Piz now, but I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect of, and you have to be writing this stuff down before you do it. If you thought that death trap that Jamie Lee Curtis designed for the past 20 or 30 years was going to stop Michael, that little quick zoom in. That shit makes me. I go back to that review so often because it's just, he's right. It's, excuse my French, it's my first F word of the video. It's fucking ridiculous. I mean, are we joking here? 30 years, one night, that she built a death trap in her basement?
And people wanted to call her Sarah Connor, and you couldn't even. You had 40 years, and oh man,
man. Okay, we need to stop.
I'm gonna have to go.
Somebody off.
I'm gonna have to go revisit that review now.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Did we rate the new Chainsaw yet?
Well, the last thing I want to say, because we're at an hour and 40, so we need to start wrapping it. But Piz, yes or no? They cut damn near all of Sally Hardesty's characters' scenes. They had to cut all of it.
I think they, it seemed like it, because I mean, why even have her in the movie. I mean, they could have just given all of her stuff to that mechanic guy, because that mechanic guy was armed. He was at least kind of a likable character.
He was likable. Yeah, he was likable.
He could have done the exact same thing that she did, and really it would have been a better arc for him, because in the beginning they were, like talking crap up to him because he had a gun, and then at the end he could have come and shot and saved them, or not saved them, but at least like Sally did. She's dead, but she whatever.
One of the best character moments in that entire movie is when he's in his shop and Lila's in there and they're talking. She grabs a gun, and like personally, when she grabs it and is holding it, I'm like, that's stupid. But his reaction to saying like, "You ever shot one?" and she's like, "I've been shot at." Like genuinely, I felt that actor did a really good job there when he's like, "Oh, like shit. My bad, man. Like I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable or anything." Like the movie tried to do the typical, they did it on purpose. They're shoving it in our face. Oh, it's this gun guy, Confederate flag, Southern Texas town. What a bad guy, right? But you actually see this guy's like, no, I'm not trying to force like things that maybe I like or agree with on you. Like that's bad. My bad. I wasn't trying to make you uncomfortable. I thought that scene was actually handled really well. Yeah, he was a likable character, but yeah, thank God they cut Sally's stuff out.
All right, so let's start wrapping this up. Piz, you're going last for this.
Okay.
For what this movie is, I still think after watching, I've watched this movie like 4 or 5 times. I love the meat and potatoes so much of 3D, and I like the kills, the look of Leatherface, and a lot. I like what I'm trying to say is these two 3D and 2022, they are the candy bar and the Fruitopia. Like they go hand in hand for me. Trying to figure out which one I enjoy more on a superficial fun level, because I do think they're both very superficial junk food. I do. It's very, very close. So I'm gonna say, because I like this Leatherface a little bit more, I'm going to give this one just a little bit more. I don't like the point systems, but I got to say 8.5. No. What did I give Texas
You gave
Chainsaw
3D
3D?
a 9. You gave it a 9.
You know what? No. I'm going to stick with a 9. I'm going to stick with the 9. I can't really pick, if I'm being honest, because I love the women in 3D. Love them. And I mean, I love them. Okay? I know Piz likes the granny girl from this movie.
Yeah.
But seriously, you know what? I'm going to say that they're even in terms of enjoyment. I really love them both. I'm going to give this one a 9 too. I'm going to give it a 9 for what it is, an enjoyment, because at the end of the day, it's all about how much you enjoy a movie. Doesn't matter how well it's made. Doesn't matter what, because at the end of the day, it's what it does to you in here. I think we can all agree with that. Doesn't matter how it's not budget. It's not cameras. Doesn't matter how expensive the camera is. Doesn't matter this or that. It's what it does to you in here. And they're both junk food and they make me feel good. So they're pretty close. Maybe a month from now, I can decide the scale. I'm going to stick with a 9. I'm going to shut up. Nick, you're next.
As I said earlier, I think that this movie does what 3D wanted to do a little bit better. I just do think it does. It's got better visuals. I think it takes its characters less seriously, whether intentional or not. The way it comes across the screen is less jarring than some of what you saw in 3D. I really do feel that way. So, and this Leatherface he doesn't feel like he's 70 years old. Whereas parts in 3D, you're like, okay, yeah, this is an old man. And I get it. It's realistic, but I don't know. I just like a youthful Leatherface, no holes barred. So I'm going to go a 7. I think that this movie is, if you go into this expecting the Mona Lisa, shame on you. Shame on you. But if you go into this like, can I turn my brain off and have fun for an hour and 20 minutes? Oh, you're going to have a freaking blast, man. Yeah, it's a 7. And I think that I feel like that's fair. I do, with my misgivings with the movie. I loved when, she gets dumped on by all the poop and pee from the, the pipe. That was great. I'm going to give it a 7 and I'm going to shut up. Piz, take us home.
One thing I didn't mention about it is I really liked the portrayal of Leatherface. I really liked the guy who played Leatherface. I thought he did a really good job. I think this is one of my favorite Leatherface performances. I'm just gonna to really piss everybody off. I'm gonna give it a 10.
Yes.
Just to piss everybody off.
That's awesome.
There we go. Well,
Yeah.
let me be honest. I mean, I would give it an 8. I'd give it an 8 legit.
If this is the last Texas Chainsaw, to wrap this up, if this is the last Texas Chainsaw movie we ever had, does this put a bow on everything for you?
I don't know if it'd put a bow on it, but I mean, it would at least go out on a fun note, a much better note than Leatherface. I think a better note than 3D, a better note than the beginning. So, I mean, if this was the swan song, I say good, because I think it went out. I think it went out with a bang.
And he's still out there. You know,
I want to see the
there.
other sister die. I want to see the other sister die. You know, wrap that up.
That's psychological. You need counseling.
Shut the hell. Piz, real quick, I want to ask you. You're a physical media guy, like you.
Sure.
I know you're. You know certain things sometimes. You know, Piz has his sources, guys. He's got cameras everywhere and people on the inside. Chances that we get a physical edition of this movie, do you think they're high? I know it's Netflix.
Legal, mind you, is what he's asking.
I sure hope so. I really hope so.
I think it's unprecedented, the situation.
Yeah, it's uncharacteristic, but this is the horror community we're talking about. It's a horror movie. You know there's going to be a push to give this a physical release.
Well, I mean, Netflix has done physical releases for other stuff, mostly their series. Yep. But, you know, I don't know.
It's up in the air, I guess.
It's up in I certainly would like to have a Blu-ray of this for sure, with some nice extras on it and, you know, commentary. I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe you know, Netflix has always been, they've always been open to horror, but I think I don't know, maybe this movie really opened their eyes to the horror fan, the horror fan base, to make that movie number 2.
Yep.
They had to be shocked by that.
If this gets a sequel, I think it'll get a physical release. I think if they truly are like, okay, this deserves a sequel, I think that would speak to the demand for the interest. There's interest there, guys. There really is. I mean, like Piz said, we're talking about a streaming service that has Stranger Things, like shows and movies that are super popular. This was number 2. That's huge. That's a big deal. It's a big deal.
All right, so Piz comes in with a spiritual 10, but an actual 8.
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
I think I stayed with a 9 for me. Yep. Same level as 3D in terms of sheer entertainment. Nick, you gave it a 7.
Yes.
Last thing, Piz, how many different ways have you heard people pronounce your channel name?
Oh gosh, let's see. Pizza Well, Pizza Well. Occasionally, you know, people will get it that first time. They'll get it, you know, the Pizzowell. But it's a lot of times they go Pizza Well or Pizza Well. Which Pizza Well, you know, I mean, I love pizza. So, but yeah, you know, it happens. It happens.
Well, we got a little message from somebody to show you, and this may be a first in the pronunciation.
Oh gosh.
So here we go.
Let's do it.
Sure.
Oh my God! I just found out that so Christian, you and Nick on the Uneeda Horror Podcast, you want to have not only me but also Piswell on the same show. 2 guys with probably more slasher reviews than all of the people in Rhode Island. I don't know why I picked Rhode Island. It's a small state. I guess I could have went bigger, but yeah. That sounds like a really cool idea. Okay, cutting it up with Piswell. Talking horror with you 2 fine gentlemen. Yeah. Count me in.
So Piz, what do you think?
I'll give him a pass because he's wearing a True Romance shirt. So he's wearing the Drexel shirt. I'll give him a pass.
So maybe sometime this year, if the stars align, everybody's busy. I mean, forget getting just me and Nick together. To get all four of us together would be a astronomical thing. But if the stars align, I think we're gonna try to get a super show and just show up and let Piz and Drum Dum talk. We just back up and that'd be cool, Piz. I think you'd be down for that, huh?
Well, if I think he needs to maybe watch a video and hear how I say my name.
Respect has to be given to the legend Pizowl.
But the Drexel shirt gets him points.
The only reason I knew how to pronounce your name because I got into your channel 10 years ago, damn near when you started it, and it was because the intro. Hey, people, Pizowl here. That's how I knew. I don't need to worry about how to pronounce it. Like, yeah. Christian was he was hacking it up with that video.
I was laughing.
Man. He sent it to me and he's like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh, we got to start calling him that now."
I know that. Well, here's the thing. I know Lee has watched your video. I know he has because I've seen Lee talk about you before in a very positive light. So he's seen your stuff, but I don't know. Maybe Lee's just getting old and he can't remember how to say stuff. So
I mean, it's
a possibility.
Yeah.
Piz, look, let me say this, dude. This has been really so. Me and you and Nick, we have covered the memories of Friday the 13th. And we have covered the memories of Texas Chainsaw. And now, thank you. I mean, this wouldn't have been near as fun without you. I mean, me and Nick love doing this show, and it's great. But every time we do these, excuse me, this is like, I think this has been lightning in the bottle. This has been so fun. I can't tell you which ones were more fun, the Fridays or the Texases. I don't know, but I think that this episode right here is going to be something when people see this and the discussions and the in-depth stuff. I don't know. I just hope you had as much fun coming on doing this as I know that the people have listening to it and being a part of the show with us.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah.
So thank you. We really appreciate it, man. I feel like we put a bow on these memories, and it was awesome, man. I get people all the time. They'll say, "I love going back and listening to those Friday the 13th memories." That's their junk food. That's their comfort food is these episodes. So it's something, man. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you for asking me to come back, and I apologize for the internet issues last time, or when it's scheduled to do this one before.
Yeah.
So
it all worked out in the end, man. So thanks.
Yeah.
Nick, you want to give the final word for the people?
I'll echo what you said about Piz. We really appreciate it. We have fun every single time, and I think that they're some of our best received episodes. So, I think the conversation's organic, and I think it comes across as very, just very enjoyable, very entertaining. It flies by for us when we're recording it. I hope it flies by for you guys when you are listening to it. This community is great, man. This community is great. This podcast is great. The viewership, the support, and the people we've been able to bring on here, and the people I've been able to meet and work with due to the podcast has been awesome. I don't know. We want to thank you guys again for listening to us bullshit for 2 hours. And sorry, Halloween Kills always gets brought up. I'm trying my best to not do that, but yeah, we really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the next time we can get Piz back on here. Hopefully we get a sequel to this movie, and we'll have that to talk about in about a year or so. But yeah, it's been great.
All right, to put a bow on this, Piz, to put a real bow on these memories we've done, give everybody watching this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, give this episode the classic Pizowl outro.
Oh man. Okay, hold
on. Let me make you full screen for this.
Let's do it.
Here we go. Hold on. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace.
This has been a production of the You Need a Horror podcast. You need it, we got it. Thank you for listening.